What's up, my nuggets? Welcome to the first episode ever of NuggCast. That's right, this is NuggCast, the podcast where we deep dive into the sauce with the nuggets, just like you. And today on the show, you obviously have me, your host for each and every one of these.
And boy, do you have somebody else.
Okay. We've got Brittany in the house.
I wonder how long I can keep this going.
I wonder how long you can keep that song going before we get stricken off the internet.
I think like 10 seconds is good. That's probably fine. Not going to go into the verse. Just
Yeah. No need to let her go too far into it. But I think 7 seconds is the fair use policy. I think that's what I've been skirting around with, at least. Yeah.
I don't think there's a time limit on that at all. But okay.
Well, governments, they get their fingers in where they please. I purposely just gave one of my more recent YouTube videos away to the internet, though, because I had to include Ozzy in there for the sacrifice that we did. You were actually there for that. That was live on stream.
Yeah. Was it Ozzy or was that Black Sabbath?
It was Black Sabbath, I guess. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
There you go. Correcting me.
You're welcome.
Even though you were the one that suggested we play Ariana Grande instead.
That's not true. Also, you still don't say grande correct at all.
It's grande?
It's grande.
It's like the way you order a Starbucks Frappuccino?
Exactly. Yeah, it's Ariana Frappuccino is what her name is.
Oh, okay. They just shortened it to grande.
Also, might be Ariana. I don't actually know because I'm not actually a fan.
Grande. It could have a Spanish sort of twist to it as well. You never know. Anyway.
Yes, indeed.
You guys, if you didn't know by that lovely introduction that he gave himself in the middle of mine, this is Frosty, everyone's favorite snowman, especially when there's a sacrifice afoot, like I was mentioning earlier. But he is, I believe you still hold the title for the most comments just in general ever in my Twitch chat. So
easily, yeah. By
if
a
you've
lot.
been, by a long mile. So if you've ever been over there, you've probably seen him tinkering about. Although recently you've been more into Destiny.
I have been. Yes.
How has that been going? We were talking about your girlfriend Destiny before the podcast started.
Me and Destiny have been spending a lot of time together.
Yes.
I joined up with a new clan, got really plugged into that clan.
Nice.
Everyone in it is super cool. So I've just felt
like PvP?
Mostly PvE, but some PvP in there as well. It's a good mix of both.
Okay.
I'm not good at
cool.
PvP.
Yeah, I always like that about Destiny. It's like a nice mix of the two. You can go into PvE with the same guns that you can then turn around and fight people with if you want. But then when you get frustrated with that, you can just go back into PvE and still play the same game, kind of.
Yeah. In PvP, you run into gun metas a lot with everybody using the same 5 to 10 guns.
Yeah.
So it does get a little bit old. If you're not good with a hand cannon, you're not going to win this game.
Well, gun metas are
I'm not.
interesting psychologically too, because I feel like you can start a meta, if you could just have people start a meta with 5 guns and they could be 5 semi-random guns, maybe not even the most powerful guns that do exist in the game, but because of the frequency of their use and the frequency of you getting killed with them, they start to just seem better than they are just because, everybody's using them. So you're not actually going to get killed any other way. But then when you keep getting killed by these guns, they start to get this overpowered nature to them. And some of them have a legitimate, sort of stem to that nature. Like they are just very, very good. But I feel like there's something about the meta. Geez, I can't even pronounce anything correctly. The meta. There's something about that meta sauce.
Data, same thing.
Yeah, right. There's something about it though that I feel like can be formed in a sort of disingenuous way that makes me keep digging for like what. Yeah, I get that this is what everyone kind of agrees is the best, but what if there's like a hidden treasure that we've just kind of glossed over because everyone's so focused on playing the meta guns? There I go again with the maters.
Yep, meta. Definitely not the word. It's definitely meta.
It's definitely not meta, but somehow I've now transformed that single-handedly in my mind. I hope to get that out someday. But speaking of single-handedly, getting into my mind. Thank you for single-handedly corrupting the entire youth of my chat.
Oh,
day in and day out.
Love to.
I know you've taken a break, but when we first started back in the stream, one of the first games we played was Borderlands, and that is a game that is near and dear to your heart. So
indeed,
you were all over it in the beginning of our history on Twitch. And there,
you caught me right at the perfect time there. I was just playing Borderlands again after being away from it, so it was very much a current, like, oh, I love this game, I want to get back into it, and then boom, Phantasmo starts streaming again,
and then you have something to put on another monitor.
This wonderful exactly.
It's like, that's what I feel like is best for video game TV. It's like when you're playing that video game, you put on some video game TV of that video game. Twitch happens to be a good spot for video game TV, I guess.
That's what you're calling Twitch, is
video game TV. Yeah.
All right, I guess that makes sense.
Dude, I call it Meta, or what is it called? Anyways.
Oh my gosh.
But speaking of Borderlands, and I know like the old Borderlands, like obviously you're a big fan of both of them. How do you feel? Because you've actually influenced my opinion on the new Borderlands that's coming up, and it's coming out very soon. It might be out after this podcast airs, depending on how quickly I get these NuggCasts going. But what are your feelings on Borderlands and the Epic Game Store and stuff like that?
It has become a question of morals more than a question of, do I like the game? Which sucks, because I really like the game.
Does suck. It does suck to have to like be a grown up about that.
Like, oh man, if I were just a kid, mom buy me this game.
Yeah.
But then mom can't, because it's an Epic Explorer exclusive.
Exactly.
Epic
Explorer. You're just doing that to make me feel better about all my mispronunciations.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I appreciate that.
Perfect pronunciation, yeah.
Flawless.
The Epic Store exclusive for 6 months. So I'm not going to do that, because the Epic Store still doesn't have cloud saves, which I require.
I'm also convinced the Epic Store was just created to like spy on us and all the things that we're doing on our computer. It just doesn't seem like it's really offering anything other than trying to emulate what Blizzard and all of these other battle launchers are doing.
I mean, yeah, but really it's just they want to control their own income.
Yeah.
Without relying on a third party, and I understand that.
Well, they want to control their own income, but there's also something about that battle launcher when you open it up, they get marketing space for you. You get to see any advertisement they want to put for any of the other cross-platform games that they're promoting or any other things within that game. And it's just like, when you download a launcher, you are like really buying into that company. And I don't believe in the Epic Game Store's platform enough, especially just with how they're trying to sort of weasel their way in to my desktop. I don't appreciate that, and it like sits with me wrong. So I think that's where my moral flag goes off, where I'm just like, it's weird to me that you're like making this a timed exclusive, such a huge game that you know everybody will want, and you're just basically using this timed exclusive to shoehorn everybody into your platform for, you know, who knows what reasons. But like you said, they don't even have cloud saves, so it's not even like technically it's just a worse investment, I feel like, than waiting.
By feature set, it's not as good.
Yeah.
And then on top of just the Epic Store, there is Gearbox, the makers of Borderlands. Their CEO,
Randy Pitchford.
Randy Pitchford, yeah. Have you heard the crazy lawsuits currently going against him and everything?
No. After he did that like live reveal, and he was like doing magic tricks and stuff on stage. After that happened, I just could not take that man seriously anymore. And then he just kind of like creeped me out a little bit, but
he is creepy.
Have things developed?
Well, there's been former employees of his that have a lawsuit against him now.
Okay.
That say that when Borderlands 2 was a massive success, there was apparently $12 million due to be given to Gearbox employees and back into Gearbox stuff.
Right.
That he then siphoned out to his own personal company.
Oh my God. What?
So people are like, oh my gosh, that money is ours and the company's, and you stole it, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And then there's some USB stick that he left at a medieval times that people plugged in their computer, and he
Yeah,
had.
I heard about that. Had like some secret leaked info for Borderlands 3 or something like that.
Well, it had just company. What's the word for it? Legal documents and budgets and stuff like that.
Oh,
that
okay.
should not have been on a freaking USB stick, as well as a bunch of porn.
What?
That, by his words, is barely legal porn, not underage.
By his words.
His words.
Oh, my goodness.
People said it was underage porn, and his defense was, no, it's not underage. It's barely legal.
Here's what I don't understand. Why do you keep both of these things on the same flash drive? That's like going to someone's house, looking at their DVD collection and seeing like family videos right next to the XXX stash. And you're just like, wait a second. There's like no effort to divide these in any way. And you're just going to like leave it on the counter at some Chuck E. Cheese, or where was it? Where was this?
It was medieval times.
Medieval times. Isn't that like a weird Renaissance restaurant or something?
Yeah, it's dinner and a show. It's like a stadium where you sit up in the bleachers essentially and have dinner brought to you, and then down in the middle is like an old Renaissance medieval
like a
times.
show. Yeah. It's a medieval times down
jousting
there.
and sword fighting and all kinds, and you have your different colored knights that you sit in the section and cheer for your knight. Ooh, okay, we're gonna go on to that segue.
I'm just imagining Randy Pitchford sitting there with flags and like dressed in a blue helmet, and then he takes his little flash drive out because he's eating alone, so he has to eat with something. So he takes it out and he's got a little plate for it, and then he must have just fucking forgot about it. Like,
oh my gosh. He must have been wearing like basketball shorts and it fell out of his pocket, like your phone at a movie theater kind of a thing.
Yeah, Randy Pitchford is a basketball shorts guy anytime he's not in the office. Maybe sometimes when he is. I can see Randy Pitchford being wrapped up in the Me Too movement. That's all I'm going to say.
On both sides, ironically.
On both sides. So wait, you were trying to transition into medieval times? Have you been to
I have been to medieval times once.
No.
It was fun. The food was fine. It was just chicken, fairly normal.
Okay.
But I want to go back, and I want to bring 30 friends of mine and just dress as crazy as we can in our knight's color.
Okay.
Like, call ahead, be like, can I have a party of 30 sitting in the red knight section, please? And they're like, yes, of course, you're bringing 30 people.
Right.
I want to make signs. I want to get super drunk and just be cheering as loud as we can.
Yes.
For our night, red knight.
Because that is medieval times.
Oh my gosh.
You have to get beer all over the floor. Every time you stomp, you just have to pound your mugs on the table.
So there's like always a storyline at medieval times. It's like a tournament. So each knight gradually loses out.
Okay.
There is no way that they don't rewrite the storyline that night to accommodate for our red knight cheering
For
section.
sure. They're like, oh shit, we were gonna have blue knight win, but we have to adjust this. So wait, it's like basically WWE, but with jousting all night?
Jousting and sword fights and like accuracy contests. Like,
Do they come up and like and boast and like trash talk each other or anything like that? Is there anyone getting on the mic, or is it all just performances?
There's always one bad guy. Yeah.
Okay.
When I was there, it was the Green Knight. He played the bad guy. Everybody booed him. Poor people in the Green Knight section were like, shoot, our guy's the bad guy?
Yeah. I don't want to sit here. Oh, man.
Then, everybody else ganged up against the Green Knight. Of course, Green Knight made it into the finals and then lost to the Black and White Knight, who was the main good guy that day.
Gotcha. So the hero prevails. Mm-hmm. So it's a comedy.
Wrong. It's a tragedy.
Yeah, I learned that the other day, that just it's very simple to like split stories into two different categories. You have comedies, which have a happy ending, and tragedies, which have a sad ending. And then also in that same line, I was with what I was reading there, like, so if you think about it, every human life is a tragedy because we all die in the end. And so comedies are actually like, oh yeah, we can actually make a story where there's a happy ending, even though that never occurs in real life if you think about death being like the ultimate tragedy. So yeah, anyways.
I think that depends on how you're looking at death, but okay, I see
yeah,
where you're
for sure.
at, yeah.
I mean, yeah, you don't have to look at death as the ultimate tragedy, but I think it's something that definitely looms over us as humans for our whole life. It's what separates us from the animals, the fact that we know that we're going to die, and it just like eats away at us a little bit.
Oh,
The
fact, the knowing, not the act of dying. I was like,
yeah, the knowing.
Do you know animals that don't die?
Yeah, dude, they all live forever, just like parrots.
Isn't there like a jellyfish
turtles.
that is essentially immortal?
I was trying to think of the longest living animal that I could think of, but the Portuguese man o' war, maybe. I think those live pretty long. Those are like huge jellyfish with like super long. I don't know if you'd call them tentacles. I don't know how closely they are related to octopus and cuttlefish, but that's another. I read a book about octopus and cuttlefish that just blew my mind. Like the intelligence of those species. They pretty much split from us and then developed at the same rate that we have. They've developed to this like dark ocean life, whereas we've developed to life on land. But their intelligence is just tremendous. I'm sure you've heard about octopus getting out of like tanks and stuff if they just leave them like
of course
poorly guarded and unattended and
though I maintain that I could get out of any of those tanks as well.
Right, exactly. So they're like humans but they have 8 limbs. They can change colors and the chromatophores. I don't know. My memory on that book is foggy, but
they're a little more slippery than me. Is the difference there.
Exactly. Yeah. Destiny might appreciate that. Who knows? All right, Frosty. This is one. I don't like to do cookie cutter conversations in any way, but this is the one thing that I have been and will continue to be asking people on NuggCast, and that is, I want to know, in your words, what your origin story would be. So every great superhero and supervillain has some kind of a story that might help make sense of who you are as a person. So if you had to give your origin story in like that Peter Parker going to the field trip to the museum and getting bit by the spider kind of esque way, how do you feel you would surmise Frosty?
I would say Frosty's origin story is one of shelter. I come from just the most standard suburban home. Everything's safe, everything there for me, kind
Provided.
of deal.
Yeah.
And then my internal struggle of holy crap, I'm so blessed, why am I sad? Kind of a thing.
Right.
And then just a gradual life of trying to explore and figure out, what do I do when I have everything already? Why does this have to change, kind of thing? But then bills become a thing, and you become an adult, and mommy and daddy don't look after you anymore. And now I've never had a struggle. How do I deal with struggle is a big theme of my life.
Sounds very similar to me. I mean, obviously, I grew up very similar. Like everything was provided for me, and I didn't have the struggle, and I didn't see the necessity for it. I didn't see what it did for people that had to do without in so many ways. I didn't see how that would make you grow and mature and develop as an actual person instead of just this baby that was so dependent. I was provided for, but at the same time, that made me so dependent on my parents and my relationships to them that when I did go to college and have my own responsibility, it was hard for me to, like you were saying, deal with that tough time of having to be a grown up, but then also wondering why it was so tough for me and not so tough for other people who had maybe had to just deal with it earlier than me.
Yeah, there's that. That's a good point to bring up. Why, you mentioned why is it so tough for me, but my thought process nowadays is that it is tough for everyone. Some people are better at dealing with it, yeah. But like the more I work a job and the more I'm around adults, like I'm 27 now. I'm starting to figure it out, kind of a thing, starting to be relatively sufficient in most aspects of my life. And it's been said before, this is not my original idea, of just nobody knows what the heck they're doing right now.
No.
Absolutely everybody's like, how do I get through today and maybe make tomorrow a little better if I can?
Right.
which is entirely
if you
my
don't
mindset
have any kids. And if you do, then it's just
Uh-huh.
like, Jesus, I gotta just stay above water. Like, I look at people, so many people now that we are friends with or have families, and it's just like to look at all these kids, and it's great to go and play with them and like be the fun uncle, as it were, for a few hours or maybe just a day or a night. But
the funkle, yeah.
the funkle, yeah, as we call it, mostly because I smell pretty funky, so they just call me Funkle. They actually call Lisa Aunt Punky, and I guess her dad used to call her Punky as like a term of endearment, but she hated it when she was growing up, and so now this like newer generation has found out about it, and they just ceaselessly torment her. So maybe I'll just tell them to call me Funky too, and then we can kind of play along with that.
I mean, sure.
But anyways, the main thing being that life is hard for everybody. Obviously, if you have kids, it's even harder. But life in general is just hard, and I think that's where I have a weird line. If I ever have a little nugget of my own, and I'm trying to raise a child. There's a weird line that I'll have to face with being a parent and obviously wanting to do what my parents did for me and provide everything as much as I can for my child. But then at the same time, knowing that to have them go through, not necessarily a struggle like, Jesus, I'm starving, Dad, but like, I can't get this thing that I want because you're not just giving it to me, and I have to like go through the struggle of having to earn it and work for it and realize the beneficial positive outcomes of hard work and dedication and responsibility and all these things that like it'll just be a hard balance, I think. And obviously I can look back on my parents and how they raised me and point out where they went wrong, but it's also, there are things that they did right that they were trying to prevent, either from their parents and how they raised them, or just like things that they didn't want to instill in me as a child. So yeah, I think that's why it gets so much harder when you have a kid, because you're also dealing with all of that. So it's just like, I know you have your life and it's hard. And like Puf and I just did taxes today, and I wanted to blow my brains out after like 20 minutes. I was like, this is horrible. I hate America is what I kept screaming. I was like, I hate America.
Your neighbors are kind of concerned, by the way.
Yeah, I think my neighbors are Russian, so I don't know. It's a weird fence to cross there, I guess. Who knows how they really feel about it.
They're yelling, preach it, brother, yeah!
Preach it. That's what we've been telling you for ages.
No.
I remember telling it's like a husband and wife that live over there. She was out sitting on the porch smoking a cigarette one day, and I went out. I was like letting Brody pee, and we were talking, and she was talking to me about like this good food that she had been cooking. And at the time, I was actually cooking like these really tasty burgers. Like I was seasoning the shit out of them, and I was searing them, and it was so juicy, and they were tasting so good. But when I told her burgers, she just like looked at me like I was the most American thing ever. Like I feel like she thought I had a McDonald's in my kitchen. I was just like running them through the fryer or something like that. I was like, she's like, you gotta make like a goulash or something like that. I was like,
The most Russian food is
right.
goulash.
I guess it was just something that she felt was more complicated than burgers, which fair enough. I mean, I was just basically cooking a hunk of meat on a skillet, but it's tasty.
Yeah, but that's the best kind.
Yeah.
Just hunks of meat put on fire.
Yeah. There's a
Gimme.
professor that I have been following for a while on YouTube, and he puts all of his lectures up on YouTube, and it's a way for me to kind of like go to school for free on the side when I want to. But recently he has started talking about this diet that he has been undertaking, which has consisted of purely ground beef, salt, and water, and that's it. And that's all he eats. And he can't help but praise the benefits for his health. He said he was having a lot of health issues, but also his like mouth, like his I don't know if you want to call it like your biome, like your bacteria biome or whatever in his mouth, but he was having all this gum disease and weird like issues with his gums, and all of that's gone away. His daughter, who has also had like really bad health problems her whole life, has transferred to this diet, and all that's gone away for her. So it's just like, I think his wife has done it too now. So it's just like weird to think that maybe comparatively to goulash, burgers actually might just be healthier if you were to just eat a burger every day, like that's all you ate. It doesn't seem like I would do it, but I take that information into account when I'm trying to establish like a new regime for my diet.
See, I always get so skeptical and immediately dismissive. Maybe there's something wrong with me here. I don't know. Of like whenever somebody's like, "Oh, I only eat this," or like, "I only ate a ground beef with salt and water, and look at everything that's going great for me."
Yeah.
I'm
like okay.
Okay.
What's the catch?
I'm different. I don't want to do that, and therefore you're dumb.
Yeah, even if it works for you, I don't like it, so I don't like you.
It's like, you have gum disease. Have you considered brushing your teeth better instead of changing your diet to ground beef?
Yeah, no, I see that, but I also go into these theories of like, man, no, that seems like it has some ounce of validity to it, because if you think about how bad sugar is for you and how you can't eat anything that doesn't have sugar in it, except for maybe if you just go to like basic food ingredients like meat or vegetables or something like that. And that's what he was originally doing, I think, before he went just strictly to meat and salt, but it was like meat and greens. So it's like just any green vegetables, like spinach or broccoli or whatever, and then his meat. And then he's just recently transitioned away to just meat. And then recently I've sort of come to be aware of, the fact that the Amazon rainforest is on fire, and the fact that it's getting set fire by these farmers that are trying to clear out more farmland on the outskirts of their property. Because it used to be you had to, if you owned farmland that had the Amazon as part of it, you had to keep 80% of that natural. And now he's sort of gotten rid of that. The president of Brazil has gotten rid of that law to where like you don't need to keep 80%, and the percentage is very mysterious right now. So people are just abusing that and just setting their whole property on fire, which is causing all of these forest fires, and a lot of it's for cattle. So I'm just like, oh God, well I can't, like I feel wrong even eating meat now. So that diet to me is like, it's completely wrong for me in so many ways. And I do enjoy burgers, but I just don't think I could do ground beef.
Maybe,
and
but
salt.
also there's a way to be responsible past that, of like, if I want to buy burgers, I could easily go down to a farmer's market somewhere, figure out where this beef is sourced
Locally
from.
sourced. Yeah, for sure.
This isn't
for sure.
Amazon
And that's
imported,
definitely an option. But we're definitely not getting, we're definitely not buying any meat or anything from Walmart. That's for sure.
Yeah.
We actually went to a farmer's market today and got a bunch of like vegetables and stuff and some frozen sausages and whatnot. But
and of course, this is all assuming I want to be responsible. I am not. I buy from Jewel, whatever local grocery store.
Yeah, no, I get it. And it's like, that's a weird thing, because you can have these thoughts of like, man, it's better for the environment and it's better for our world if I do this. But at the same time, like, what about me? Because I'm struggling as it is, like, and I got to ball on a budget over here. So it's like, and we are very much balling on a budget over here. So it's like, we don't have the luxury of just spending all this extra money on organic grass-fed beef, although we do when we get our beef, just because it does seem like that's the responsible thing to do. But it's like, and Pew feels so strongly about all of this, like to where, it's just, we have to, sometimes we just don't eat. Like Pew, she'll hate that I'm saying this on the podcast, but she hasn't shaved her armpits in a while. And she was commenting today on, she's like, oh my God, this is like the longest my armpit hair has ever been. But she refuses to buy razors right now because she just reads so much about how wasteful they are. And she is like to the nth degree of making sure we have as little waste as possible. And then we were going to the pool the other day, and our neighbors had just had their trash. She sits the trash outside the door when she's cooking, and then she like takes it out when she can, because the dumpster is a little bit of a hike away. So I just grabbed it and I just took it to the dumpster, and I was like, I'll meet you at the pool. And as I was carrying it, I couldn't help but just like look on the outside, and you can kind of see through, and it was just all like cans and plastic bins and stuff like that, and like all things that if Lisa would have had it, she would have 100% tried to recycle it. And so it's weird, because while you're fighting this battle, there are just so many other people that that aren't, and it's hard to justify either way, really, just because there are so many different things at play there.
Yeah.
Not to mention, Puf was telling me that recycling in America is pretty much just horrendous and not even worth it. She was telling me this today, actually. She's like, I don't even know why we recycle. Like, we just don't even do anything with recycling. Apparently, there's little numbers inside the recycling triangles, and if it's like a 1 or a 2, then it's like pretty recyclable, but anything else, if you try to recycle it, it'll just... they just throw it away or something, like some kind of equivalent like that. So it's just,
well, I mean,
it's weird.
All this leads very well. It's about, it's pretty late in this podcast, so we've got to do an ad read. Our ad, Dollar Shave Club, actually.
Oh, there we go. Dollar Shave Club.
Are you interested in? No, I'm not actually going to make up a Dollar Shave Club.
Are you interested in shaving for $1 a day? I haven't shaved since I was 13, but maybe this is for you.
I tried to search Dollar Shave Club ad read. But I don't see anything
He's
written
like, man,
out.
this guy's really bringing it down with the recycling gig. We gotta do it. We gotta run an ad roll.
Oh,
okay, let's change the topic. Let me ask you a question here that I probably won't ask all my guests, but I feel like this might be one that you could field pretty well. Frosty, what's your favorite video game of all time?
Oh, freaking A, dude.
I know.
Man.
I know. So many. It's like asking for your favorite movie of all time.
Lord of the Rings, easily.
Lord of the Rings.
But
all right. Easier question than favorite video game.
That's not even close, yeah. But favorite video game.
Was Lord of the Rings a big part of your childhood, just out of curiosity? Because Star Wars, I would say, is my favorite movie, and I watched Star Wars growing up religiously.
I don't recall Lord of the Rings being a huge part. No.
Okay.
My dad does have the box set of them.
Okay.
But I watched them way more than he ever did, and he
When did you start watching them?
Probably, I don't know, in high school sometime.
Oh, okay.
I watched the movies before I read the books.
Okay.
Because the movies got me into it, and then I was like, okay, I'll read the book, because book is always better than the movie. It is. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, wait, Tolkien has so much more, and I read everything Tolkien's ever done now.
Oh, wow. And just because the way he was writing and his fantasy atmosphere resonated with you in a certain way?
I love the fact that he built a world. It absolutely stands out to me of this guy, before he published anything, had such a concise and logical world made out with history, and it's way later in his world's history. If I were to say, design a world, you'd think of current events.
Sure.
Tolkien has
backstory,
thousands of years of why this stuff happened.
Yeah.
And that absolutely stood out as so cool to me.
Do you think that it stood out to you for the same reason that you have been pulled towards being a dungeon master in D&D?
That 100% is why I wanted to be a dungeon master.
Gotcha.
Because I was like, I can make a world too. And when I went into building my world, 100% it is. I mean, it's shaped like Middle Earth.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Using maps and stuff. I changed city locations and names and everything, and I have political drama and such happening in each city and the past of what happened.
And so is this a world that you continue to use in different ways and in different instances as you go along in D&D? Or
yeah, it's they play every week, just continuing on the story in this world.
Okay.
So it'll be we play every Monday. We're playing tonight.
Nice.
But it's they will right now they're exploring in a town called Herbal. And they're dealing with the the local thing happening is actually a farming related thing, ironically.
Oh.
Whereas this town's primary export is fancy wine, and wine and ale and brews in general.
Okay.
So
party town.
The local farmer who well, not really the farmer, it's the guy who owns the farms and exports the grain and distillery. He owns the distilleries and everything. He rose to power naturally. He's got the most money. The people aren't happy about that. There's a revolution that they're trying to include my friends' players in.
Okay. Overthrow the monarch there. But
Yeah, the rich guy who just owns things but doesn't. He's never in town. Yeah.
Right. Interesting.
Like-
and that's just one city of the world that you've created. How exhilarating is it to have all of your friends like asking you questions and looking to you to tell them about the world that you created, that they are
so cool.
Yeah, that's gotta be
man,
so cool.
It's so cool. Like, especially when they're invested in story that I made up.
Yeah.
Is so cool.
Yeah.
Usually, like, there's some things that, like, oh, I didn't have a lot of time to prep this week. They're down in this dungeon. I'm just going to look up a pre-made dungeon that's good enough, and I'll fill it with stuff relating to my world, but it's not like that I made.
Right.
Those are fun to run, and oftentimes they have way cooler ideas than I had.
Yeah, it's a good source of inspiration. Like if you want to continue to make more into your world, like you kind of got to go and treasure hunt a bit and see what other people are doing to cross it between your world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but the most fun is when a character that I made up is telling about a story that I made up that my players are trying to figure out.
Yeah,
that's the most fun.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet. What do you think you enjoy more? Like when you're in the depths of a D&D match like that, and you're like facilitating it, or when you are sitting behind the band as the drummer and facilitating the rhythm of the music that you guys are playing?
Drumming for sure.
Yeah.
So you keep bringing things up. For people listening that don't know, I play Dungeons and Dragons and I run my game. I'm a dungeon master.
There you go.
I also play drums. I've been drumming for a very long time now, and I do that.
Yes.
Every other weekend.
Have you been drumming since like grade school or?
No. My freshman year. Well, I did percussion in grade school. Sure. So it was like, oh, play the bells, and then it was like,
I got
okay,
stuck with the bells.
Whoever's
all the time.
Well, I lucked out. We had a little audition where you could play the snare drum instead, but because the snare is so much louder than a bell set, you had to audition to be able to do it, and I won.
Wow!
I was drum captain in 5th grade, and I played the snare drum.
So you didn't just play in grade school; you were the chosen one in grade school.
Well, I always tried super hard. I've always been talented at it, but drumming I've always worked hard at. So like I played in middle school as well, 6th, 7th, 8th grade. In 6th grade, I got brought up into the 7th grade band.
Wow.
And then for 7th and 8th grade, we auditioned, and I was drum captain in the 8th grade band.
Wow. So you try. Do you think it's that you've tried so hard, or that you've just been so naturally inclined to have this sort of rhythm from?
I think it's neither. I think it's an interest that I've had, that I've wanted to try hard at it. So like, because I'll open on YouTube and I'll just watch people, like currently something in my life in relating to drumming is I've purposely been watching African American drummers more.
Interesting.
Because their backgrounds are just different, and it shows up in their playing. Yeah,
the origin story kicking in.
It is incredible how different a kid who was raised going to a gospel church plays than a kid from Spain that was raised on like just totally different worlds of music.
Absolutely. The diversity of, even though it's the same instrument, you can pass that around the world and everyone will take it a different way.
Even if they're playing the exact same beat.
Yeah.
This is like scientifically should be the same.
Right.
The feel is different.
Yeah, that's so weird. That is so weird.
I've been looking at that a lot because I'm like, my playing is typically exactly on beat, but that's not always the best.
Right.
The little nuance of being off leads to a lot more feel.
Leads to authenticity in the song too.
I'm purposely trying to get a little bit of swagger into my playing more. Yeah.
I think that comes with confidence too, and just like developing your own style, almost how Jimi Hendrix just came up with his own chords. Like, I don't care, these work for me, so I'm just gonna like do it that way. But
oh man, I was listening to a thing. Now you bring up guitar.
Yeah.
So music is a huge part of my life.
Heck
you know that.
Absolutely.
I was listening to a thing of a guy was playing a guitar part. I don't remember the song. I'm sorry. But he was playing it and it just sounded off a little bit.
Okay.
And he's like, maybe I'm out of tune. Goes to tune his guitar. He's perfectly in tune, but it still sounds off from the song. And then he listens to the song like a lot and decided that in the recording,
no, really,
one of the strings is a little bit out of tune.
Oh my goodness.
But this is because the relationship between like playing a chord on a guitar, I don't know enough music theory to explain it, but it was like
just do your best at a lie, we'll believe it.
Some like if there's like a perfect triad, here's the number, the frequency in hertz of what it should be perfectly.
Okay.
And that's what the recording had his guitar tuned to. But if you're tuning to just a normal electronic tuner, it'll be like 8 hertz higher. And that difference, the guy was like, this sounds so much better, but only in this song. In other songs with a different chord flow, terrible.
Wow.
But it was such a cool, like, I don't know, I geek out
it's
about
such a
stuff
cool,
like that.
serendipitous moment, too, where you're just like, I wonder if the musicians had this planned or if it was just like that spark of lightning where it was all of a sudden it was just like the perfect thing aligned.
It had to.
Yeah.
It had to have been planned.
Yeah. Yeah. That's music, and not only for them to do that, but also for this guy that was listening back to it to be able to identify that that's what was happening. Like that is a tremendous level of attention to detail when you're, with your ear and just putting that practice into place. That sounds crazy. It actually, while you were talking about this, like different people from different origins playing music differently, it reminded me of this band that I came across a couple years ago called Tanari Wen. Tanari Wen? Is that what it is? Tanari Ren? Or something like that. But basically, TINARIWREN or something, or maybe without the R in there, but something like that, where they are a band that they play electric guitars and they just kind of jam out, and they have this guy that sings, but it's all Middle Eastern. So they literally like ride around on camels that hold their guitar amps, and then they go out into the middle of the desert and they just play with each other, like with electric guitars and like these like Middle Eastern like chants, like oh ha he hi, and it's just like to hear that. It almost brings me this vibe of a Jimi Hendrix kind of guitar, how it sounds like that, but it has this Middle Eastern, almost like every song I listen to, they're trying to charm a huge snake out of a basket or something like that. It's got this flair to it, and maybe it's the subtleties in the alternative instruments that they're using supplementatively in addition to the guitar, but it's just I don't know. I enjoy that too. I enjoy hearing other people's takes on music, and maybe it's because being musicians, it's cool to hear just like you go and look at other people's Dungeons and Dragons maps to get inspiration. It's cool to hear how other people play these notes, because it's like an inspiration in and of itself. But yeah, man, that was I definitely wanted to touch on music and Dungeons and Dragons, because there's actually something that I want to talk to you after the podcast about.
Okay.
That relates to Dungeons and Dragons that me and Kid Laser actually had a question for you about.
Oh boy. Okay.
That I'll pick your brain about once we end this. But one more thing I wanted to brush upon that I think all the Nuggets should know on this NuggCast is I wanted to know if you could give us a quick little history behind your esports days.
Oh God. Okay.
And the professional Call of Duty that this man played.
Yeah.
He's more competent and more professional of a esports athlete than I ever was. So I'd love to hear some behind the scenes on your refrigerators stocked with energy drinks and whatnot.
Sure. Okay. So it was very early days of Modern Warfare 2 that I started taking Call of Duty really seriously. Well, we'll go back. I started watching competitive Call of Duty with Modern Warfare, with COD 4, when we called it.
Oh, wow.
Technically, it started in COD 2, was when like the first pro scene was kind of starting up.
Okay.
But COD 4 is when, I mean, it's still widely considered the best Call of Duty game.
Yeah.
It's being remade right now.
Yeah. That was all the inspiration.
A competitive
so
scene
many
started.
People. Yeah. Okay.
And they were hosted by GameStop, and everything was local.
Oh, okay.
And there was not a huge scene. Then enter in some websites, like Game Battles is where I got my big start.
That's what I was wondering. I was wondering if it was Game Battles.
It was just sign up, form a team with a bunch of my friends here locally, and they were into I mean, we didn't call it esports, we called it competitive Call of Duty at the time. They were into it as well. Some played Halo more than Call of Duty, but we had a team, started playing. I got better, left them, joined people that I met in this competition kind of community.
Oh, okay.
And just eventually
So you went out and advertised yourself, basically. You're like, yeah, well, I'm better than these friends that I'm growing up with. I need to up the competition.
It was such a weird community because we used Twitter and we used AOL Instant Messenger to schedule scrims. Like AIM was our AOL Instant Messenger, what I call AIM. That was already dead. That died in 2005 or 6, whatever. But we still used it in 2009 to make, like, that's how pro teams talk to each other. We had our screen names in our Twitter profiles to schedule scrims.
Oh my God. That's like, that reminds me of sending like pigeon messages or something like that. Like, it's like, oh yeah, I'll send you a text and I'll also use my dial phone the rotary phone to send you a fax too, and we'll get this.
Oh my gosh, I'll fax you scrim schedules. Oh man. Anyway, so eventually I found myself on a team that we were like, we think we're pretty good. We were called Prime Suspects. It was a terrible team name. We were like, we feel pretty good about our team. We've been scrimming
both
teams like Fear and Envy and
I recognize those names.
Doing okay. We'd lose, but we wouldn't get destroyed.
Yeah, you'd hold your own.
So we're like, okay, I bet we could play our way through the open bracket and be ranked professionally.
Wow. And so you went for it.
Well, yeah, we all bought tickets. We went out to our first competition. I think in Columbus was our first one.
Dang.
And Columbus was close enough that I could drive, so I was okay with it.
Yeah. From Chicago.
So I, drove down there. We did really well. We didn't we won our bracket.
Wow.
Which then meant we got to be put into another bracket that included pro teams.
Now, when you say you did really well, was it like you felt like you did really well as a team, or you were just performing like you were performing and you were doing well compared to the other caliber of opponents?
Compared to our opponents, we were winning almost everything in the open bracket that just anybody could enter.
Oh, okay. But it wasn't like you felt like you guys were playing on this godly level. It was just like, wow, we can hold our own here.
We played like we knew we would play. The amount of practice that goes into this is absurd. I was playing Call of Duty easily 10 hours to 14 hours a day.
You had call-outs for every pixel of that map, I bet. Like every map you just...
I can still draw most maps from a top-down view.
Do you ever use Call of Duty 4 maps as inspiration, or Modern Warfare 2 maps as inspiration for D&D?
I don't, but that's an interest. Maybe that started my love of map making.
The favelas.
Because I still very much love map making. I have a drawing tablet and I draw them. Maybe that started in memorizing Call of Duty maps.
Could have been. You've always had this affinity with layouts, of the aesthetic nature of layouts. That's cool.
Every Call of Duty map can be broken down. Well, at the time, into like 3 lanes. There was always a mid, left and right lane. It'd be called different things.
Yeah, and then all the different boxes and houses and everything. You guys had it all. So you made it through the first initial round of the tournament, right? Is that what it?
Yeah.
So you made it through your bracket.
We made it through our open bracket. Then we got placed into it's another total bracket starting from the beginning, but now pro teams are in it too.
Okay.
And then we did not win a game.
Oh, man.
We're like, oh, okay.
So this is the difference.
But by by getting into that bracket, we all now had pro points in MLG, which this was MLG. If you got to this point, you then were awarded an amount of points to be considered a professional player.
So it's like currency it's your
so
rep
we're like,
currency.
Basically, yeah, it's a total rep kind of thing. How many pro points do you have? I'm the top player. I've got 490 kind of thing. I had 10.
Hey, it's better than most of us listening to this, I would imagine.
Man.
So.
It was so much fun. And then, that team fell apart. They technically I got kicked off that team.
Oh man, too rowdy?
Well, no, they thought
too many sofas out the hotel windows. Frosty?
No, we didn't do that. Our parties were always fully put back together afterwards. It was I ran
little gamers.
my role was objective and capture the flag was the biggest game type at that point.
Oh yeah.
And I thought I was pretty good, but they didn't think I was that good. So they replaced me at objective and asked me to be coach, and I said no. I'm joining a different team.
They're like, hey, Frosty, you're an old man now. Can we just retire your fingers and use your brain full time?
Man, well, that must have been it. It must have been like, this guy knows the game so good.
Yeah.
But he's not getting kills.
Yeah. Well, and as an objective player, I mean, isn't your mission to just chase the objective more times than not? Like, you're not the Slayer on the team.
Oh, definitely not. And our Slayer was booty. He would just sit, okay, so... In the most competitive map, in my opinion, was Firing Range in Black Ops 1.
Oh, yeah.
So he'd sit usually in top wood, the wooden building we call wood. That's where Slayers would typically want to be controlling, and we were just not good at holding that, which is the viewpoint for the map.
Yeah.
So... what are you gonna do?
Oh, well, if you have a poor Slayer, then it seems like you were getting the flack for him. Maybe he was talking to the team like, "Hey guys, I know I'm supposed to be killing people, but I think it's Frosty that's the issue."
It's okay,
and like, of course,
my viewpoint is always gonna be that I was doing fine, so I can't actually say there. Maybe they were right. Who knows? Maybe
I'm just the way history is told to us, ladies and gentlemen. It's always from the eyes of the victor or the person who's still standing around.
Oh man.
Well, I
declined their offer of coach, joined a different team, didn't do that well. Then Modern Warfare 3 was being released, and MLG did not carry Modern Warfare 3 on their competitive brackets.
Dang.
Or their tour, essentially.
So you just got dropped for a year.
Well, so I went, that's it, Call of Duty's done. Because at that point we were kind of the community as a whole was negative about the game, like, oh no, Modern Warfare 3 is garbage, this isn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
And so I got a job.
Right.
I started working at Motorola, and I was like, okay, I can do software testing, I know this stuff, and I have always just had a job since then.
Yeah.
And then Call of Duty picked up back after that, and I went, I'll get back into this in Black Ops 2. And I'm not good enough to get back into that anymore. Holy cow.
Yeah, man, the caliber of players just keeps increasing. That's the thing. Like back when we were the fresh kids on the block, we could just throw it around, just get in there and use our natural genetics and biochemistry to just like have those reaction times and be able to outperform all the older people. And now we're the older people. Like I'm getting in there just like, holy cow.
Dude, my shot is so bad now.
Yeah.
Like, it is I hope this isn't what old people feel like when they're like watching sports or like people dancing. They're like, I used to be able to do that kind of a thing.
Probably.
Because now when I hold a controller, I'm like, my aim is so much. I know my aim was better than this.
Yeah.
I could outgun anyone in a fair gunfight.
Yeah.
And now I can't at all. It's the worst.
Yeah, no. I mean, atrophy is a real thing that I have found now in more things than just my fingers, but definitely my fingers are just kind of like, if I don't stay persistent with that, which is what I'm trying to do now, since Modern Warfare is just around the corner again. I know if I don't do that, then it's just gonna get out of hand. Like my fingers just basically start to fall apart, and they feel so, like when I first get behind the controller, because I took a break from Call of Duty for so long. When I first got back behind it, like you were saying, it just felt like almost I had stilts on the end of my thumbs, and there was just so much gap between where I wanted to move and where I was moving that it almost felt impossible. But I'm here to say that it does slowly start to come back. But I know you're over there on PC, right, playing Destiny?
Yeah.
So
yeah, now I'm very much a PC boy.
Yeah, you've made the transition. I salute you for that. I think I'll always have a little love held out for my PlayStation. So, and I'm definitely gonna be pursuing that. Honestly, if Modern Warfare wasn't coming out so soon and I wasn't so pumped for that with this whole Borderlands fiasco, I would probably have just ended up buying Borderlands for the PlayStation come the 20th. But yeah, I don't know.
Is it out on consoles at the same time?
That's a great question. I hadn't thought about it. I mean, I'm not going to either way, so I guess it doesn't matter for me entirely. But I don't know. That's a good question, because with the timed exclusive, it is.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
Yeah,
okay.
it is. It is only. Well, it says September 13th, 2019. So, yes, I would imagine.
The day after the beta comes out for Modern Warfare. I thought it was the 20th for some reason, but I guess it's the 13th. Huh. All right. So only timed exclusive for PC. It's still a boner of an issue there. I'm still not gonna bite on that. And I have to thank you for that. Not only, like I said, can I thank you for single-handedly corrupting the youth of my chat day in and day out, but I also have to thank you for putting my moral ethics in check when it comes to video game responsibility and economy, because I think that game developers are just sort of using the fact that it's mostly younger kids that are playing games, or at least in the past, that's how it has been. They're using that idea to try and further manipulate and take video games into this weird kind of capitalist outlook, and I think that it could be cut back significantly, and a little bit more effort could be put into the enjoyment that we're getting from these games that they're just trying to manipulate us into buying. So
sure. However, one reality check you need is the youth of your chat. That youth's average age is probably like 24.
Oh, right. No, I realize that like the chat is kind of like everybody that follows me on this channel is growing subsequently with me.
Oh,
like,
man. Yep.
You know, so it's cool. It's cool because, you definitely don't have to try and be that person that you were 10 years ago by any means, because everybody else is continuing to evolve and adapt. So that's cool. And I think that's why people will hopefully resonate with this. Our first ever episode of NuggCast, where, the plan is, you guys, obviously the plan is each episode to have a different nugget on, but there's always room for return guests. So, and I'm telling you, as far as the microphone quality goes, you're not going to find anything better than what you listened to today.
That's right.
From the Britney Spears all the way down to that deep, low, raspy nature.
Sorry. I made it a button on my side.
That's amazing. Do not apologize for that. All right. Are there any final thoughts that you'd like to give the YouTube world or any of the nuggets out there before we?
Not really. I thought about my favorite game. It's probably Warlords Battlecry 2. It's an old RTS.
Okay.
We don't need to talk about that. It's such an
we kind of left that
game.
Question because it's like such a mean question to ask somebody. What's your favorite video game of all time? It's like, well, give me a couple weeks to think about it, and then maybe I can tell you.
Let me go through and play everything again, and I'll tell you now.
Yeah, run it through my nostalgia filter to get an accurate reading, and then I'll let you know.
Like Borderlands 1 is up there, BioShock 1 is up there. Call of Duty
a lot of great
Black
classics.
Ops is up there, man.
You gotta wonder what the next classic is that's gonna be around the corner. I wonder if it's Cyberpunk 2077.
Ooh,
we kind of both wondered if it was gonna be Anthem or Division 2, but that didn't pan out.
Nope,
so.
Not at all. Those were
Sometimes
fun. I played.
Sometimes you don't.
Played them like crazy, grinded like crazy, going, this will be good eventually, maybe, hopefully. And then it wasn't. And then I'm like, all right, never mind, I give up. Next game. Which in my case is back to the previous game, Destiny 2. Here we go.
Yeah. Well, it's good that they continue to enrich that game, because you are in there day in and day out.
Man.
I almost feel like I'm withholding you from some kind of valuable experience that you could be gaining right now. So I'm gonna quickly let you get back to that before you flay me.
My Discord has 5 messages from people on Destiny
since we've been recording this. Like, come on, man, get your hand cannon, let's go.
Let's see. I'll just read one right now. Let's see. Oh, this is from a British guy. So
Oh,
and so he
got a little
says,
twist.
"Fancy the whisper puzzle soon. No rush. I've got all night. LOL."
The whisper puzzle, is that like a dungeon run or something you guys are gonna go
There's a gun called Whisper of the Worm that has a special quest to get it, but in that quest there's puzzles that you can do separately
through?
that award different things. In this case, a fancy ship.
Interesting. Wow, Destiny 2. I gotta hand it to you. But is it Bungie behind Destiny 2?
Mm-hmm. And Bungie just bought the rights to the game from Activision.
That's good.
So it is now entirely them and not Activision Blizzard running things. So
Do
this
you hear that, Infinity Ward?
this update happening in October, everybody's really looking forward to.
Yeah, it's gonna be like free to play in a lot of ways and stuff like that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's moving to Steam. The base game and the first 2 DLCs that they put out are now free.
Wow.
And it's going to be more like an MMO than it's ever been before, in the sense that there are way more stats and character customizations you can do.
Okay.
Whereas
Wow.
right now, it's like there are 3 choices per class, and only one of them is good per class.
Wow.
So there's going to be
Okay, so
way
they're doing
more.
some rebalancing.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
I'm just looking
and you said
forward
that's
to
in
having,
October?
Yeah, October 1st. I took the work
Wow.
off.
Well, there you go, guys. If you guys if you don't want to jump on the Call of Duty bandwagon this year and you don't have anything else, and you're protesting the Epic Store like we are over here with Borderlands, jump into some Destiny. It'll be free to play. First 2 DLCs are free, and if you ever want to hop into the stream and pull Frosty out and say, hey, come play Destiny with me, I'm sure he'd love to.
I'll leave in a heartbeat. You don't even.
Yeah.
You say Frosty Destiny. I'm like, I'm in there. If I'm
It
not
barely
already
takes
on
the
game.
word Frosty to get him out of our chat and into something. He's just so anxious to leave. All right. Well, Frosty, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for being such a lovely presence in my life and in Twitch and now over on YouTube. And I look forward to seeing more of you, buddy. And thanks for helping me out with the first ever NuggCast. I had it could be nobody but you.
I bullied my way into it. I called dibs. So of course.
Well, thanks again, buddy, and we'll be hearing from you again for sure.
Oh, you can't stop me.
All right. Peace, Nuggets.